Good morning, everyone. Ho, ho, ho. Not morning where you're at? That's okay, because you can have eggs for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Welcome to episode 24 of Three Eggs Are Better Than One. I am Brad Stanton, along with fellow eggs Brian Hermza and Matt M. We would like to thank everybody for the positive feedback from last week. Another one of Matt's crazy name weeks. I hope you guys really enjoyed that. I Sigourney did. But let's get right
Ah,
into the sunny side up of the week. So who's up? Bryant, what's your good news, man?
man, it has been a crazy week at work. Been traveling a lot. The bosses are in town. We got audits getting ready to hit. So what's sunny side up? As you're listening to this, it's already happened. But for us, it hasn't happened yet. This is Nerd Christmas. WrestleMania is this weekend. Get to sit back. It's 2 days. Saturday night, Sunday night. Will Paul Heyman show his allegiance with CM Punk and not help Roman Reigns? Can Jey Uso win the world title? Is John Cena going to win 17? Is Tiffany and Charlotte really a shoot? Will they go off in the ring? We don't know. But for us wrestling people, this is the biggest weekend of the year for a lot of people. There's a lot of people in Vegas. Gotten a lot of pictures from friends out there. But for me, Sunny Side Up is looking forward to WrestleMania.
Well, I'm looking forward to it too, that's for sure. It is here. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to be able to. Here's my thing. I work 9 to 7. So as we record this, it's kayfabe, Matt. Sorry, buddy. It's Thursday, and tomorrow is Friday, which means we have 3 hours SmackDown. Okay, and then NXT is at 1 o'clock. Stand and delivers at 1 o'clock on Saturday. Now I work 9 to 7 Friday, and I work 9 to 5 Saturday, hoping to get out right at 5. If you catch my drift. But how am I going to watch all this stuff before WrestleMania night one? I don't see it being a possibility. How
Gonna
about you,
be
Matt?
it's gonna be tough. Uh, I'll try to watch SmackDown on, on Friday and get that out of the way. I don't know if I can watch the Hall of Fame and NXT.
All right, the Hall of Fame. Damn it.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Um, yeah, and I mean NXT. I might just try to watch that later.
A lot. Well, but by the time this premieres on Monday morning, we might not have even seen all of these things yet, even though they've happened.
Well, I will definitely have seen WrestleMania night one and two.
Well, yeah, I would agree with that.
Well,
So,
I'm also
uh,
going to say no one here is going to watch the Hall of Fame. It starts at 1 a.m. for you guys, midnight for me. None of us are watching.
well,
1
I'm
a.m.
not gonna
It
watch.
really does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
starts at 1 a.m. Eastern.
So when is SmackDown start?
Normal time.
Like
So
five
that
hours.
starts at 8, and then they
Yeah.
have 2 hours between 11 and 1.
Uh-huh. Because they're
Yeah,
at
I'm not watching that.
Yeah.
Well, who says you have to watch it live?
Why would they do that?
Because they're in the
Because they're
Pacific
on the
time
West
zone.
Coast. They're in the Pacific
I'll
time zone. So
start
it's
earlier. What
so
are we
it's ten
talking
so
about?
it's 10 o'clock in Vegas.
We got real far into the sunny side
Yeah,
up.
it's 10 o'clock in Vegas. That's why they're doing it that way.
All right, whatever.
Anyway, Brad, sunny side up, buddy.
So my sunny side up is, as this airs, I am finally done with this crazy fast and this crazy non-drinking thing. I have been drunk for 3 days since. I haven't yet, of course. Kayfabe again. It hasn't started till Saturday, but I made it. Right now, at this very moment, I'm 66 days in. It was 68 days total. Very happy that success. Unless I have a bender in the last couple hours here, it's going to be a success. So that is my sunny side up.
First of all, I love the Crown Royal shirt, Bryant. And I would say Bryant's sunny side up today was the single most predictable topic that any one of us has ever had on this show because I knew you were going to say it's WrestleMania weekend.
One of us was going to. Come on.
All right. So I am the absolute worst at sunny side up. So it's choose your own adventure. Do you want to hear a sunny side up that's not so great because it's hard for me to come up with them, or do you want to hear a rotten eggs? That's maybe not that great either.
Just whatever. Dealer's
What?
choice again.
You know what? You pick, buddy. Flip a coin real quick. I don't care.
All right, let's go with the rotten eggs.
Go figure.
And
Yeah.
it's not great, but when my friend told me this, I felt for him. My good friend of mine, I won't name him or anything. He he opened a Netflix account about 22 years ago. when it first started and it was, the physical DVD in the mail service. He has maintained the same account throughout its entire history, you know, more than half of his life. And recently, somebody hacked the account and something really weird happened. They like removed his credit card information and his payment details and put in their own. So it's like they weren't actually like stealing. They were like shoved him out of the way and just took over his account and he had trouble getting in, yada yada. He connected with customer service and basically learned that the account was completely compromised. He had to shut it down and start over. And he was really sad that he lost his entire lifetime worth of Netflix history. And that really got me. It really got me. Rotten egg.
I would be really annoyed with that. I don't know if I'm going to go as far as to call it rotten.
I don't know if I'm going to go so far as to worthy of talking about on our podcast.
But
Well,
it would be very, very upsetting. I happened to me once with a Hulu account, and not as big of a deal. But then I found out later that it reappeared, and I created a new one. And now I don't know what to do. I have a Bradley and I have a B. And by the way, someone keeps logging into my Hulu account from Gadsden, Alabama. Does anybody know who lives in Gadsden, Alabama? That's our friend Adam from Bama. How did he get my Hulu? He also got my Netflix account. He's got everything. I don't remember giving it to him. This is what happens when you drink. Now,
I was about to say, drinking
I have
probably did
no
it.
idea how he got all this, but I see there's no one else I know in Gadsden, Alabama. I promise you that, except for Adam from Bama.
this is good stuff. See? You never know what you're going to uncover when you just bring something random to the table.
My wife says you should. I mean, oh no, it's Adam. I said it's fine. It's
Yeah.
fine. Just.
And
So
and by and by the way, losing a Hulu account, that's not the same as
I
losing.
also said that.
That's not the same.
He did
Not the
say
same.
that.
You
He did
did. I
preface.
just would like to reinforce that thought.
Well, thanks for bringing me down.
Different planes.
It's kind of like the Wish Netflix, right?
The what?
Wish.
Wish.
Am I
You have
saying it
no.
wrong?
No, you're saying it right. He just doesn't
Okay.
get the reference. Yeah.
I mean, there was a very big pause there that you're gonna have to edit out, Bryant.
Yeah.
Know what you're talking about.
Oh my
Wish.
God.
Actually, I don't even agree with what I said. But however, I forget, Matt, the fact that you don't know what Wish is a hard boiled in itself.
Is this something that's inappropriate?
No, it's the cheaper version of something. It was the Wish account where you get it overseas from China, and there's a lot cheaper. Like you get the fake
Yeah.
AirPods, everything like that.
Like
And it
Temu?
takes about it's way before that. And it takes about 3 to 6 weeks to get there. It's not as good, but it's really cheap. But now it's Temu. Yeah, Temu. Okay. Anyway, hard boiled. Back in the grocery store. Went went twice this week. One time I just had to get a couple items, and really the whole point I wanted to go in was I needed some cash. Okay, so I knew I needed just a couple things, but I wanted the cash too, and I'd rather just do it all in one store. Well, here's the problem. It was very, very busy on this Sunday that I went. So I'm in there and I assess the situation. I'm looking at the regular lines and I'm looking at the self-checkout lines. Self-checkout line's long, but it usually moves pretty fast. The other lines, they're long too, and you got a lot going on in there. So I decided to go in the self-checkout line. This guy starts coming up to everybody in the line and says, "Just so you know, this line is longer than those lines." And he's telling everybody in line. I'm like, dude, listen, we got it. We got this under control. This isn't our first time in the grocery store. I go, this is a decision we made. We're not getting out of line now. That's a big mistake. Once you get out of line and go into another line, you're taking a very, very big risk there of waiting longer. So no, listen, I appreciate the advice, but we're gonna just stay put. However, he might have been right. Now, what kind of rules should there be for a self-checkout line? Should there be like a 20 items or less, a 10 items or less? The answer is yes, but there isn't. Not a giant anyway. And these people have half a cart, buggy, again, whatever you like, full, and it's taking absolutely forever. There needs to be a rule. 20 items or less, 10 items or less. Let's get the rule. And it's like another thing is when you're in one of those other lines and these older folks that I'm talking north of 70, they're afraid of the self-checkout. They got 2 items and you already got a lot of crap. They're like, can I get in front of you, Sonny? Figure it out. All right. And then I've seen them get in the self-checkout line and ask for help from the person that's watching it. Oh my gosh. Are you kidding me? You want to talk about a workaround? So I'm back at the deli and I get a guy and he wants to know I have 3 items I'm ordering and he wants to know all of them at once. This never goes right, right? But I'm gonna deal with it. So he goes, all right. So he repeats my order, which I like that. And then I tell him, one's thin, one's chipped, and another one's thin. And then he goes, but I want you to, he goes, do you have shopping to do? I'm like, of course I do. I'm just here for the deli. No, no one's just here for the deli. Okay. And he says, oh, maybe Brian is. But he says, well, I want you to stay put to make sure that I have the appropriate slicing size for each. I'm like, oh my gosh, please. Just do what you do. So I'm waiting and he shows it to me. I'm like, I give it the thumbs up. And he goes, do you want it? I'm like, I don't want it. I don't want it. Just, you can put it with the pile. And the lady goes next to me. She goes, oh no, why don't you want to eat it? I'm like, I go, I'm just not real big on eating things over the counter. And she's like, oh, what kind of meat is that anyway? I'm like, I don't really want to talk about it. Okay. I don't know why. She's like, well, why don't you want to eat it? I just don't. I don't understand why you feel you need to engage with me in this situation. All right. Anyway, it's not as bad as it's usually been, but the fact that he told me to stay there because he wanted me to see it is just, ridiculous. So, all right, now I'm in the dairy aisle and I need to get 1 quart of milk. Okay. But there is a lady there and she's disabled. Okay. So she's taking her time. And I said, hey, excuse me, is there anything I can do to help you? And she says, no, 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 I got it. And she's mean, real mean. All right. So then the guy behind her who's with her is also disabled. And he says, no, you should help. Can you help her out? I said, I'd be happy to. She goes, no, I said, I got it. I said, fine. So I walk away and I go down and I get the cheese and I'm getting the bread and I'm getting more bread. And I come back through the frozen foods and she's still freaking there. She's still there. I don't even know how much milk. What are you even getting at this point? But obviously you did need my help, but you refused it. Take the help. Just take the help. You're just holding things up. I'm here to help you. Finally, oh no, not finally. I'm at the gym, all right? And I'm near the tanning bed, all right? But the tanning bed's behind a door. And I'm just doing my thing, working out, and I hear some real hardcore heavy rapping coming out of the tanning bed area. And I'm like, kind of look over, and then I look at the woman that works there, and she is cracking up like as hard as she can because there is someone hardcore rapping in the tanning bed to little Wayne. All right. So I want to get the hell out of here now because now she's laughing. And if this guy comes out, I'm not going to be able to breathe. I'm going to be laughing so hard. So I'm trying to get the hell out of there. I'm finishing up and I'm running away. And then he comes out and she says, oh, we heard you. I didn't want to be brought into this situation at all. First off, I'm not that friendly at the gym. Again, I'll say hello and that's it. I don't want to get involved with a conversation about how much this guy likes Lil Wayne and it's his jam. I don't care. All right. Oh my gosh. Finally, I usually don't bring up work situations, but a guy called in the other day because he said he bought a car 40 years ago. 40. Yeah, you heard the number. 40. I was 9. You were negatives. Okay. And says he never got his title.
How does that even what?
Come on.
So the funny thing is we're helping him. We are helping him. And he walks into the building and says, I haven't been here in 40 years. I'm like, you were never in here. This building wasn't built. But I don't know. I just thought that was funny. So hard boiled. Moving on.
I can't move on. So very much. I mean, I work from home quite a bit, and maybe I don't get out so much, but is this what's going on out there? The
This is
things
going
that are
on.
happening to you at the grocery store, are you sure you're not the subject of like a Joe Schmo show? I feel like I said that already at one point, but like the joke's on you, everybody's in on this but you. What is happening?
I can't
And
go there without something happening.
and um God, I wrote down like 7 things here. I mean, there's enough material there for a spin-off. Um, uh, I don't really like when I'm out to eat and the server doesn't write down the massive
Me neither.
order that they're
Me
taking. Not
neither.
really a big fan of that. Go ahead and write it down. I'd rather it be right than you impress
Yes.
me with your
Why
memory.
are you showing off?
I don't, yeah. I don't think you could say disabled anymore. It's Lil Wayne, not Little
I
Wayne.
did say Lil.
No, I don't
We're going to go back to the tape, Brian.
Yeah,
know.
we'll let it.
Brian, do you have Targets, the store Target? Because you don't know
I,
what
I
things
mean,
are.
I have one about 90 miles away. Yeah.
Yeah, I probably have nine within 90 miles.
Jesus.
They have rolled back on their self checkout. I don't know if it's for a theft issue or security, what, but half the time when we're there now, it's closed off or it's heavily policed. So interesting stuff. All right, let's move on.
Well, I agree that we have a police person there, but it's only
No,
one.
I didn't mean actual
No, I know what you
police
meant.
officer.
All right, so, well, I hope everybody enjoyed that. That brings us to scrambled eggs. Bryant, I don't even remember what scrambled eggs is.
Scrambled eggs is, well, I truthfully, it's more of inconsistencies, but it's whatever kind of we're going for now. And I usually kind of pick the movie realm of inconsistencies, but I've kind of decided to take a little twist and do some TVs today. Talk about some TV shows. And as we all know, most shows there's always inconsistencies throughout all these shows, whether it's stories, people, things of that nature. So I kind of want to point out a few of them that I find a little funny to me. And I will have, of course, some photos as well to kind of verify my stories here a little bit. We'll dive into one. Who we all remember the show Family Matters. Who doesn't remember Steve Urkel? He was the hit of that show. Let's be realistic. But did you know, as something funny to me is, in the first four seasons there was a third child. Judy Winslow was part of the show, and in the fourth season they show her in the wedding for grandma, but after that she disappears. Never referenced again, never brought up again. And it's almost as if there's only two children in the show going forward from there. Kind of one thing that's a little funny to me of, you go four seasons with three kids and then all of a sudden she doesn't exist and she's just gone.
I didn't know that.
So,
Very inconsistent.
yes. Matt, were you going to say something? I saw you getting
No,
ready.
no, I agree. I didn't know that.
When that normally happens is a pilot episode.
Yes.
And
Normally for pilots, you have, you introduce characters, and then when the show gets picked up, you might drop a few off but the main characters always stay
Like
around.
Seinfeld.
Seinfeld's an
Yes.
excellent choice. An excellent.
Yeah.
One of the shows that I've referenced here on the show, and one of the shows of my youth, Boy Meets World. And in the show, one of the main characters, Topanga, you don't really get to see her parents a lot. They're referenced quite a bit, but you don't see them. The most of the story arc revolves around the Matthews. But did you know that for Topanga, throughout the entire series, 5 different actors played her parents? 3 different people played her father, while 2 different people played her mom.
Is that Lenny? Is that Lenny from freaking Laverne and Shirley?
Yes, it is. He played her dad in some of the mid seasons.
And who?
It's
Are
Michael
they
McKean,
kidding me,
right?
these guys?
Yeah, Michael Keaton. Yeah.
Michael.
They're not. They
Mike
don't
Keaton.
even look alike.
No, none of them. The moms, yeah, I'll give you a little bit.
The moms,
hair.
yes, but is that Jeffrey with a G from Who's the Boss?
It could be. Could be at this point.
Ah, wow. Yeah, the moms look alike. And who's that on the end? She's somebody, right?
Yeah, she was in Desperate Housewives.
Yeah.
Well,
What
yes.
up, girl?
Yeah.
So for the next one, I'd like to mention is
Nice guitar, dork.
Okay.
One of the big shows of the 90s, obviously, probably very big for, both of my fellow eggs here, Friends. Friends was the hit show of the 90s. Let's be realistic. But did you know in the show, one of the inconsistencies in there was how Rachel met Chandler? Apparently, their first they have 3 different recollections of the first times they met. The first story was they met in high school at a party and kissed. But neither one of them remember it.
Yeah.
The
That
second
is so true.
story, they met at a bar during a flashback when Rachel was engaged to Barry. Monica and Chandler are together. And then, of course, the one that most people remember from the pilot episode when Rachel runs away from her wedding and Monica introduces her to the group is the third introduction of how they met. Air quotes.
You're absolutely right about this. There's a lot of inconsistencies here. Now, the second situation, though, we got to take that out, and I'm going to tell you why.
Please.
That was a alternate reality.
Oh, see, again, that is not news for
You
me.
notice they're in a bar and they're not in the coffee shop in that one. That's if maybe I'm wrong.
Well, they mentioned there's a flashback episode, so I don't. Maybe this could be an inconsistency, but again, we've got two of them that are there for sure.
You know what? I'm wrong.
Okay.
You're right. That's a different episode altogether. Sorry, Brian. Continue.
No, you're good. Another show, and I could go on and on for this, but we'll mention one more, which is a classic for me as I've gotten into later. I'm sure you guys love The Office. And another inconsistency they had involves Pam and Pam's mom, for example. Because in season 2, they introduced this woman as Pam's mom, but in the later seasons when she's dating Michael Scott, it's a different woman. A lot more older, I would say, but two different women as Pam's mom through the seasons of The Office.
Yeah, it happens. It happens on the shows. The lesser characters are replaced. It happens.
But for as prominent as Pam's mom was in the episode in question, in the early season 2 there, the whole episode's almost framed around her a little bit coming to visit.
Yeah.
And then, as we said, in the later seasons, Pam's mom has a more prominent role when she dates Michael. That's a several episode arc there as well. So
I love it.
But as I said, I can go on and on with this. I love stuff like this. So, I just want to pick out a few things for this episode and make it something fun.
How about Jennifer in our favorite collective movie, Back to the Future?
Yes.
Right? That's a big one.
That is another one.
Elizabeth Shue taking over that role.
Oh, comes in perfectly for the second movie as well. Yes.
Yeah.
So,
well,
that's my time, Brett. Thank you. Yeah.
That brings us to leftover eggs. Now, leftover eggs is something that has gone on for too long. So, Matt, what's your leftover egg this week?
Aren't there enough, are we still doing this with the cooking and the baking shows? And, I mean, there's 45,000 cooking shows. They're all terrible. How much cake is being made, and how much of this cake is being eaten? None, maybe? Just the bite that the judges are taking, and they're probably spitting it out too, because they can't sit there and eat cake for an hour straight. But my son put on this show recently. It's called Is It Cake? Do you know this one? Is it cake? ? There's some object, three-dimensional thing, and then the bakers have to go and design something that looks exactly like it and make it look as realistic as possible so that the judges from a little bit afar can't tell it apart and they don't know, is it cake? And then the guy grabs a knife and they try to cut through it, and it's either cake and it cuts through, or, it's a metal object or something and it doesn't cut through. This is where we're at with these shows. I mean, it was entertaining for about 13 seconds.
It's a good number. I really want cake right now. I haven't had cake in 60 some days, at least. I can't. I don't think I had cake the day before, but you're right. There is way too many cooking shows. I mean, it's really evolved into so much more now with the Hell's Kitchens and all that too. Where
I'm out on it.
Some of that's entertaining. I don't watch it. It's not. What was her name? Fairchild. That had the weird voice. He used to do it back in the old days. It's a little before
Julia Child.
Julia, that's it.
Yeah, I was supposed to say Julia Child.
Yeah, Morgan Fairchild was Chandler's mom. Yeah. Not inconsistent.
Ooh.
Yeah.
But it's definitely there's a whole channel dedicated to it, and plus I think there's sub channels now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Do you know they make us put that on?
I didn't want to dive deep on it.
Well, we're gonna dive a little deeper.
We're going to.
They make us keep that on, at Nissan, they made us keep that on. That is like something nobody objects to, is keeping the
Yeah.
cooking channel on at all times. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
political. It's not sports. You
Hey,
know what I'm
that's a
saying?
smart move. You got to go with something that's couldn't upset anybody but Madam, you know?
All right, so it is WrestleMania season. So, like, I want to talk about something that's going to be very unpopular with wrestling fans. I think that something that is out, that is should no longer be around in wrestling is the Hell in a Cell match. And I'm going to tell you why. There have been 53 Hell in a Cell matches. Okay. 53. Hell in a Cell matches, for those of you that don't know what it is, it's a cage with a roof on top. Okay. So you really, and it's extremely dangerous. But the reason I say that it should no longer be around is because you cannot top now what has happened. And I honestly, I don't want to top what has happened. The most infamous one, of course, being Mick Foley versus The Undertaker. It has been covered in nauseum, where Mick Foley was thrown off the top of the Hell in a Cell, and that was a planned spot. But then he also went through the Hell in a Cell. The man should be dead, okay? But because of that match, wrestling has become a lot more dangerous because people are taking many more risks. Darby Allin recently did a swan dive or whatever it is off the top of a cage and fell through glass. I mean, he is unbreakable, but very dangerous. But the Hell in a Cell match has had so you have, like I said, Mick Foley versus The Undertaker. You have Cody versus Seth from 2022. You have Triple H versus Cactus Jack, which is Mick Foley from 2000. Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels from 1997. We're not going to top these matches, okay? I think that it's time to move on. You could still have cage matches, but as far as the danger of the match and people trying to top old performances, I think it's time to put it to a stop.
Spoken like a true almost 50-year-old. There's just
Mick
I think
Foley
there's too
should
many.
be
I think
dead.
there's I
He should
think
be
there's
dead.
too many of them just because there's it de-specials it. I don't mind the violence.
I mind some of the spots. I do. Some of the spots are outrageous.
I think it lost its
The man should
luster
be
when
dead, and that should not be a reason to be well known because you almost died 3 times.
I think it lost its luster when it was forced into a pay-per-view and you force the match on people.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
the reason and the meaning behind it fell off and it didn't mean anything anymore. It became another thing. And I think that helped kill the lore of Hell in a Cell and made it, to your point, something that who cares at this point.
Some of the most creative people in the world are working for WWE. Let's come up with something new.
I mean, it came up perfectly for Punk and Drew. It's set up to where you had to have that match rather than, oh, it's just there, we have to do it.
Yeah,
you
have
needed
to
that.
fulfill the
You
match.
needed that match to fulfill the rivalry, to finish the story off with it. So
Fine. Go ahead, Bryant.
well, Matt kind of took a little bit of my luster today
Really?
because I was going to talk about how there are way too many cooking shows.
What? Seriously?
I can't stand the amount of cooking shows I see on TV. Now, here's the funny part. I enjoy the baking shows. Those baking shows, some of those intrigue me because I'm intrigued how you make this house out of cake. Like that intrigues me. I get that. That's cool. Like I want to see how you're building this wall that's 4 feet high in cake. That intrigues me. I don't care how you cook a steak. I don't care that you're using this lobster, whatever, to make a dish. I don't like some of these cooking shows I watch. I go, I'll never make this. Why do I care? Now, if you're going to teach me how to make a proper hamburger, or am I grilling this shrimp up enough? All right, cool, I'm in for that. But like half these dishes, I don't know what they are, and I'm probably never going to eat them in my life. Why do I care that you're making them? So I think we need to cut them down. And again, I don't need a British version and a Latin American version and an English version and a Japanese. I just, again, I'm not going to cook. I'm not going to eat 95% of this food. Who cares? Like, I don't need it. Too many shows. Cut them down.
Are you guys for real right now?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe one day we're gonna hit the trifecta where we all bring the same topic.
I mean, if any time it was going to happen, it was going to be the episode before WrestleMania or after WrestleMania. Depends how you want to look at it. But not cooking on that show.
There's too many. You cannot disagree. There's too many shows.
Too much.
There's too much.
Hey, let me ask you another thing. If you're watching this trying to follow a recipe, can you actually follow the recipe on the show?
Oh,
No.
No.
I'm not going to have half those ingredients. I'm not going to be able to, again, where I live, heck no, I'm not going to find half those ingredients.
They don't explain it all.
No.
no.
That's another issue. You're not learning anything.
No. This is supposed to be for me? No, it's not. It's clearly for you. I don't care.
Anyway, well done, fellas. Which brings it to the omelet. So I don't know if everybody remembers last week, I talked about the lost interviews that were that were recorded, and because of the power surge, or not the power surge, because of the lightning storm that caused my laptop to blow up, those interviews were lost. So I do have the transcripts from a few of them, and I've decided to read 3 of them today. I'll do my best to let you know who's speaking and who's not. I'm not going to do voices, okay, because I don't do voices very well. I know Matt M is not real excited about this, and I'm sorry about that, but we're going to do our best, Matt, okay?
Clock's ticking.
All right. Well, oh, yeah, for the guy that freaking never shuts up, right? Anyway, the first interview was with Jack Dawson. Now, if you remember from our first episode, Jack Dawson was he was on the Titanic, and unfortunately did not make it through. So here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another wild episode of the Kickout Crew. I'm your host, Brad Stanton. Sorry, James. And today we've got someone who literally went down in history. And I don't mean just losing a title match. He's an artist, a lover, a rebel, and somehow he's cruised from 1912 to 2025. Just kick it with us. So give it up for the one and only Jack Dawson. Hey, Brad, I got to say, this is the strangest sketch I've ever been a part of, but I'm here for it. Jack, man, first of all, welcome to the show. Let me hit you with the obvious. You survived the Titanic. You time travel a century, and instead of painting nudes or dodging icebergs, you land on a wrestling podcast. How's that for a character arc? It's wild, man. 1 minute I'm freezing in the North Atlantic, the next I'm watching a cage match with nachos in my lap. Honestly, wrestling reminds me of steerage, sweaty, loud, and full of people fighting for survival. Huh. That's exactly what we say about ECW. Okay, so let's dive in. No pun intended. Hypothetical time. You're in the ring, tag match. You got one partner against Cal Hockley and the Iceberg. Who's your tag team partner? Easy, Rose. She's got a heart, grit, and let's face it, she didn't let go. I know a lot of people give her heat for the door thing, but I tag her in any day. Let's go, Rose. Now you're in the squared circle. What's your finishing move? I call it the sketch artist. I fake him out by pretending to draw them, then bam, flying elbow from the top rope. Got that one from watching Macho Man clips in the hotel room last night. I go, yeah, I dig it. So, Jack, you live a life of art, adventure, and romance. What would you say to fans today who are chasing dreams but feel like they're stuck below deck? I'd say don't wait for the lifeboat. You get one life, maybe 2 if you're lucky, and end up on this podcast. Do what sets your soul on fire. Draw, dance, wrestle. Love someone with everything you've got. And if an iceberg shows up, drop kick it. That's a t-shirt right there. Drop kick the iceberg. Before we let you go, one last thing. If you could face any wrestler in history, who's your dream match? Shawn Michaels. The guy's like poetry in motion. It'd be the artist versus the Heartbreak Kid. Win or lose, I draw him in mid-sweet chin music and sell it on Etsy. Jack Dawson, ladies and gentlemen, a man who proved you don't need a belt to be legendary. Any last words for the crew? Yeah, never let go of your dreams. And always tip your bartender. Freaking man, what a shame that could not, after all that, I don't know how many people have interviews with Jack, but he is not blaming Rose. He says he's taking a lot of heat, and he sounds like he's a wrestling fan. So,
knowing you picked Sean, I'm glad Rose let him drown. Yeah.
All right, guys. We'll see how this goes. We're gonna do one more for sure, and if there's time, maybe a third. Okay. But anyway, this is the interview I had with Saddam Hussein. So buckle in, folks.
A while ago.
Yes. Well, no. It is post-mortem.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Kickout Crew, the podcast that brings you the biggest and baddest, most controversial figures in history. And today we've got a guest that nobody saw coming. He's got a bigger losing streak than the Brooklyn Brawler, a worse heel turn than Hollywood Hogan. And he went from main eventing wars to jobbing out in a spider hole. Please welcome Saddam Hussein. Brad Stanton, you are bold to have me here. I am the greatest leader in history of Iraq. You are lucky to be in my presence. Oh, I'm sure that's what you tell yourself, buddy, but let's cut to the chase. Saddam, your career started strong. You had the whole ruthless dictator gimmick going for you for a while, but it all fell apart in the early 2000s. What happened? The Americans, they turned heel on me. First, they liked me when I was fighting Iran, big babyface pop. Then suddenly they turn on me like the Montreal screw job. I was betrayed, Brad. Oh, come on, man. You invaded Kuwait like a classic heel run. You cut a promo about how you were taking over, and the whole world hit you with a steel chair. Didn't you think there'd be consequences? Consequences? I was the undisputed champion of Iraq, the Middle Eastern madman. I had the best mustache in the business. Better than Hogan? Better than Rick Rude? Better than Tony Schiavone. And then the US hits me with the biggest burial in history. Yeah, speaking of that burial, let's talk about your last big angle, the spider hole storyline. Man, that was a rough way to go out. You were hiding like the Shockmaster after he tripped through the wall. What was going on through your mind when the US found you? It was a work, Brad. I was going for long-term storytelling. I was building up for the greatest comeback of all time. WrestleMania was about to run wild, and then boom, I get taken out like I'm in the Royal Rumble match with all the world powers teaming up to eliminate me. Yeah, I don't think the comeback was happening, pal. Let's face it. You went from being the main eventer to jobbing in a courtroom. That's like going from WrestleMania main event to wrestling on the pre-show Battle Royal. It was a screw job, Brad, just like Bret Hart in '97.
There you go, Bryant.
Oh, don't you compare yourself to Bret Hart. The Hitman was a technician, a storyteller, a legend. You, Saddam, were more like an overbooked WCW mess. Power hungry, full of bad decisions, and nobody knew what was going on by the end. Fine, maybe I got a little too ambitious. Maybe I should have stuck to just being a mid-card dictator. But admit it, Brad, I was one of the most talked about names in history. My heart was nuclear, literally. Oh, I'll give you that. You had X-Pac heat, the kind where nobody wanted to see you anymore. So what's next, Saddam? I assume you're not running any indie promotion from the afterlife. Who knows, Brad? Maybe I'll return for one more match. Maybe a Saudi-hosted Super Showdown. Oh man, even Vince McMahon wouldn't book that. All right, folks, that's all the time we've got today. Saddam, thanks for joining us. You may have lost the war, but you sure as hell won worst heel of the century. At least I didn't get booked like David Arquette. All right, I'll give you that one. Thank you for tuning in, folks. Until next time, kick out of 3 or 2 or whatever it was back in the day.
Oh no. Kick out at 3 like Hogan in Mania 6.
Yeah, 3.1, yeah.
I guess I didn't realize they were maybe the kick out crew history here is they're very wrestling based.
Mm-hmm.
How fitting, because this is our our unofficial WrestleMania special.
Yeah. True.
So, I mean, I have one more, but I know we're running short on time here.
Go for it.
All right.
Do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Kickout Crew. We've had some pretty legendary guests on this show, wrestling icon, cartoon characters, even some historical figures. But today we're going way back further than ever before. My guest today is the guy who basically invented drama, storytelling, and talking way too fancy for no reason at all. He's the undisputed heavyweight champion of literature, the poetic playwright phenom, the bard of Avon himself. Give it up for William Shakespeare. Thou art daughter, me good sir, but my troth is 'tis most wondrous to partake in this noble discourse. All right. Let's bring it down to normal level, Billy. We don't have subtitles for this episode. I see. A jest thou maketh at my expense. Verily, I shall speak in the tongue most plain, that pains me greatly. Much appreciated. Let's start with the basics. How does it feel to be the greatest writer of all time? I mean, basically, you're the Ric Flair of literature, except with less wooing and more soliloquies. 'Tis a burden most heavy, yet a crown I doth wear with pride. Many a scribe hath penned their tales, yet none endureth as mine. The slings and arrows of outrageous fortune may strike, yet my word doth remain eternal. See, that's the thing. Your promo game was insane. You were cutting monologues like they were WrestleMania main events. To be or not to be, that's basically just slow burn retirement teaser, right? Indeed, sir, 'twas the art of suspense, mine audience, held captive by the wonder as Hamlet debated the very meaning of existence. 'Tis no different than when a warrior stands upon a ring, the ring's precipice, contemplating his final bow. What's wrong, Matt?
You mean precipice?
No.
Okay.
Speaking of warriors, let's talk about your biggest feuds. You had some serious backstage heat with Christopher Marlowe back in the day, huh? That knave, huff. A mere mid-card at best. He penned a few fine verses, yes, but who doubt recite Tamburlaine the Great these days? None. Meanwhile, my Macbeth still bring forth chills. 'Tis the mark of a true main event player. So you're saying Marlowe was just a glorified jobber? Now, I shall grant him this. He did put up a good fight, yet history remembered him but one name, and 'tis mine. Shakespeare 3:16 saith, I just wrote thee under the table. Oh man, you definitely had the bookers on your side, but let's talk about your most overcreation, Romeo and Juliet. That's still selling tickets centuries later. How'd you come up with that one? A true tragedy woven from the threads of passion and folly, a tale of love forbidden, a fate most cruel, a work of, yeah, but let's be real, wasn't Romeo kind of a simp? Simp? Thou wouldst label my fair hero thus? Come on, Billy. The dude fell in love in like 5 minutes, got married in a day, and then died over a girl he just met. That's some next level desperate energy. Perchance he was a rather hasty in affections, but such is the folly of youth. Wouldst thou not compare him to wrestling, a fan who buyeth every t-shirt of his hero only to turn on him at the first sight of a heel turn? Okay, that's fair. Let's talk about your finishing move. If you were a wrestler, what would it be? Most assuredly, it was be the tragic ending. First, I'd lull my opponent into a false sense of victory, much like I do with my audiences. Then, bam, a twist most devastating, a poisoned dagger, a ghostly revelation, a lover's mistaken demise. Verily, none would kick out. That's brilliant. You'd be the master of storytelling in a ring. All right, Billy, before we wrap up, any final words for the fans out there? I shall impart this wisdom. Life is but a stage, and we are mere players, but thou art the writer of thine own tale. Choose thy battles wisely, strike boldly, and if ever in doubt, draw the elbow from the top rope. You heard it. You heard the bard, folks. That's all for today, Kickout Crew. Remember, whether it's wrestling or in life, all worlds are ring. See you next time. So everybody, obviously I didn't talk to these guys. A little bit of satire for you this week, just something a little different. Hope everybody enjoyed it.
But you didn't? I was supposed to go through the Kickout Crew archives.
Yeah. When I put the show on YouTube now, I got to check off the little box that says, this was not created in, I don't know, there's all these kinds of things they try to prevent AI created content and stuff now. Anyways, so one of my monitors died and I'm struggling now. I'm looking in a different spot and I'm lit differently. I don't know.
So I do have a question here for Brad. Well, coming up with all this. The 316 wrote you under the table line.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you wrote that down, and as you're writing, went, "This is good."
I thought
But
some
am I
of it was
right?
pretty good. Some of it's hard.
I couldn't come up with stuff like that. No way.
No, I've tried and given up. So
I haven't even tried.
All right. Well, let's move along. Hope everybody enjoyed it. It's fun.
Yeah.
And if I get accused of freaking NEIA shit, I'll freaking beat some elbow ass. Okay, Matt M.
Yeah.
Yes.
So let's go to expired eggs. Expired eggs. Matt, what do you got for me this week?
So expired eggs is usually we talk about someone who's no longer with us, but we're not boxed into that corner. So today I'm going to talk about a band that broke up. And the name of this band is Talking Heads, an American band formed in 1975 in New York City and consisted of vocalist guitarist David Byrne, drummer Chris France, bassist Tina Weymouth, and guitarist and keyboardist Jerry Harrison. Described as one of the most critically acclaimed groups of the 80s. Talking Heads helped to pioneer new wave music by combining elements of punk, art rock, funk, and world music. They reached their commercial peak in 1983 with their hit Burning Down the House. In 84, they released the concert film Stop Making Sense, which I think might be one of my personal favorites. It was directed by Jonathan Demme, who later won an Oscar for directing Silence of the Lambs. In 1991, Talking Heads announced that they had disbanded. France said he learned that Byrne had left the band from an article in the LA Times. And he said, as far as we're concerned, the band never really broke up. David just decided to leave. They reunited only once to play at their Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction in 2002. And I love this detail here. We were so close. In January 2024, so recently, Billboard reported that Talking Heads had turned down an offer of $80 million to reunite for a tour and play at Coachella. Almost had it. I really like Talking Heads. My wife does too. We went to go see David Byrne as a solo artist a few years ago. He had a show called American Utopia, which turned into a very successful Broadway play. And we were actually at the very first night that he ever did it for a public audience, like before it was known what it was or what it would become. And we had a great time. And they were definitely a beloved band that just didn't last very long. So they're an expired egg.
Huh. Never know what you're gonna say.
I mean, isn't that like what we want to talk about here?
I like them.
Yeah, they have enough. I mean, they're episode worthy. They've got 10 songs that you probably know, you know.
Oh, easy.
Psycho Killer. I mean, come on.
No, it's a very good
Right.
expired egg, Matt.
It's possible the music even made it to Nebraska at some point.
Depends on what part.
Now,
Yeah.
I say the eastern half, maybe. Yes, of course.
Very good, Matt. Unless you got anything to add, Bryant.
No, I'm good.
So I'm going to talk about an expired egg that's maybe not as expired as it depends on how you look at it. In 2002, there was the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. In 2004 was the second Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire, and in 2007 was his final of the trilogy of Spider-Mans. In 2016, Tom Holland was introduced in Civil War. I can't think of the name of the movie now. I cannot believe I didn't write the whole thing down. Oh, Captain America: Civil War, and he was just there. Like there was no backstory or origin story of him or anything like that. He was just the Spider-Man. Who gets overlooked is Andrew Garfield. In 2012, the first was his first Spider-Man movie, made over $700 million. And in 2014 was the second Spider-Man movie, also made over $700 million. Now, that is pales in comparison sometimes to some of these other ones that are now making billions of dollars.
It's a lot of
Uh,
money.
but they did not make a third one. And the reason The Amazing Spider-Man 3 was canceled due to a combination of factors, including middling reception of The Amazing Spider-Man 2, internal tensions at Sony, and the studio's decision to reboot the franchise with Tom Holland. A last-minute decision by Andrew Garfield to back out of a press event also contributed to the decision. I think Andrew Garfield gets a kind of the bad rap as I mean, there are a lot worse Spider-Mans than I mean, there are a lot worse Batmans than Andrew Garfield was a Spider-Man, if you know what I mean. He was very funny. I thought both the movies were good, and he recently was in the third edition of the No Way Home, which is the most recent Spider-Man movie. I think in 2021 or 22, where there was all three Peter Parkers were there, and he was hilarious. So I consider that a strange expired egg that he did not get to make his third movie, even though the movie was doing. They were successful. Yeah, maybe the ratings were down, but I didn't stop Men in Black 1, 2, and 3, did it? You know what I mean? So, like, I'm just saying, Men in Black 2 wasn't too good, but they still made Men in Black 3. Uh, Interesting. That's all. I just thought that was a different expired egg. I'm a big Spider-Man fan. And I also didn't realize till recently that Andrew Garfield and Holland weren't real spider people. Okay. Tobey Maguire was bit by a spider and had webs coming out of his wrists, where the other two, it was in their suit.
Hmm.
They're just
See,
they're
I know that from now. See,
creations of Iron Man.
I've never seen the movie clearly because I don't know Marvel, but I know that meme of they're showing them loading up the thing and Tobey Maguire does the thing and it shoots out. And they're like, you can't do that, like that. So yeah, they're just people.
It's just Tony Stark suit that
Yeah.
he created for them, Iron Man. But anyway,
Now,
I just thought that was a different expired egg.
if there were memes about talking heads, Brian would have heard of them before. Brad, I
Maybe.
never know what you're gonna say. Question: Who played is it Mary Jane in the first Andrew Garfield one? Do we know that?
That would be yes.
It's Emma Stone.
Emma Stone, yeah.
Emma Stone. Okay, I thought so because they were a couple for a while. Her and Andrew Garfield. So that
And
must
now
be.
Tom Holland's a couple with the one in the current ones. So
Zendaya.
Zendaya, thank you.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. That's how
Now
I
Tobey Maguire, as far as I know, is not a couple with Kristen Dunst.
know. Is he still alive?
Tobey Maguire?
What?
He
Yes.
was he was 2 years ago for this
It was
movie.
2 years ago in that movie. I mean,
Okay.
Seems like such a nice guy, and I heard he's not. And that's crazy to me, but I hope that's just a rumor.
I feel like he's never done anything that I've given half a damn
Well,
about.
I like the Spider-Mans. They were really good. And I like Pleasantville. And I like Cider House Rules.
Pleasantville is an excellent movie.
Yeah. And he was really good in that.
Yeah. You know what were not excellent movies? Men in Black. Terrible.
They're.
Terrible movies.
I'm just saying they made three of them. Then why
Oh,
not make Wild Wild West 2 while you're at it?
oh.
Oh, don't you say that out loud.
Oh, they
Oh,
made Grown Ups too.
it's true. They did.
All right, go ahead, Bryant.
So for me, I am going to talk about a television show that I enjoyed that I felt got cut off way too soon, 2 seasons. But the story was there, the great acting evolved in it. And I don't know if you guys have seen the show, but the show is called Kidding. It was on Showtime, starred Jim Carrey.
Oh, kidding.
Uh, Kidding, yes,
I understood, Bryant.
yeah, yeah. Jim Carrey, Judy Greer, stars of the show. A great cast of people. The show is essentially Jim Carrey plays a guy named Jeff Pickles, who is an iconic children's television actor, a la think of a Mr. Rogers. The difference being that Jeff would do most of his shows with puppets. And he was kind of a ventriloquist, but it was kind of based around that Mr. Rogers type character. Had a television show for years, and PBS show basically where, um, but as his home life was imploding, he dove more into the show, and the show Kidding kind of goes into showing the dysfunctional home life, but how he coped with it with the show as well, and then the show declining and how he could make the show better and the connection he had with children. And then you see the connection he has with kids through the show, but you see the relationship he has with his own children. And with his own child, he had twins. One passes away. Spoiler, I apologize, um, but it's an interesting show, kind of the dynamic. And Jim Carrey, I thought in this role was fantastic. We're used to that funny comedic side, but seeing the serious side come out and the acting in it and like the story behind it of how it's this television character, but how when he's off screen, it's not that he's not the same character. It's just his life is crumbling and it's coping with that. And I just think it's a fantastic show. Wish it was set up for a third season, but unfortunately was not picked up. Fantastic show, 2 seasons. Recommend it to anybody. It's great.
So I watched the show.
Oh, great.
I I don't know what it is about. There was a movie that came out in 2002, starred Robin Williams. I just looked it up just to make sure I had everything right, called Death to Smoochie. All right, and it was like they played, children's characters like this, like Barney type characters. Was the idea. What is it about like, and it was the same thing. They were all disturbed, like does it bother anybody else that the people that are dealing with children are so have mental issues like this? Like that, was this something like where did we get this information from? Was this something that was happening in the 70s, 80s, and 90s that like the Mr. Rogers type person, which I know he didn't have any issues, but maybe someone who
Right.
played Big Bird or something like that had mental problems like that? That was the only thing that really bothered me about the show, but I did like the show, and I was surprised it actually went off the air because why isn't Jim Carrey like what's the deal? Why wouldn't people watch Jim Carrey? Well, I guess it's not
Exactly.
the Jim Carrey biting his own ass kind of thing,
Mhm. Yeah, no, I mean, and it was a good show, like I said, and I mean, you set the story up for that, and like I said, this show ends with a setup for season 3 that doesn't happen. But Jim
Yeah.
Carrey, I think he's broken out of that comedic role a little bit more to the serious roles, and I think sometimes people see him in a serious role, but they want the comedy, and when he doesn't give them the comedy, people don't want to watch.
Yeah,
People
one
don't
of my
care.
favorite movies was The Truman Show. So,
Truman Show's great. Yeah.
but I think you're right. I think people want something different. I think they want
Yeah.
Ace Ventura out of him or Liar Liar,
Hmm.
Yes Man,
Yeah,
Dumb and Dumber.
Dumb and Dumber.
that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can name
Um,
all of them.
I did not watch the show, but I know exactly what it is. I'm pretty sure my wife watched it and she thought it was pretty good. You can't watch everything, you know? Sometimes
No,
you just gotta pass on something. I don't know why I passed on that. I do love Jim Carrey, maybe for the reasons we're saying right now, which is it wasn't like a slapsticky sort of thing. I believe that's the only time he ever did TV outside of In Living Color, which obviously he did prior to being a movie star.
And that is correct. This is the only TV show he has done. Yeah.
And also, I want to say, like it was this series was directed by, I could
Andrew
be wrong.
Zemeckis.
No. The guy who made Eternal Sunshine, which
That sounds right. And he was in that.
yeah, I mean that
Yeah.
is one of my absolute favorite movies of all time.
Disturbing.
That movie's amazing.
Disturbing.
But it's a very imaginative director who's made a lot of crazy movies. All right, let me look that up real quick because I don't want to be wrong about that.
Yeah.
Because there's something else I want to say about it. Yeah, Michel Gondry, it is him. He's like a French guy. He made this movie called The Science of Sleep, maybe 10 or 15 years, probably like 15 years ago. It is absolutely amazing. It's about this guy who has a sleep disorder, and the whole movie is like him going through reality and dream space, and it's made so beautifully that like you're experiencing it just like he would be, like as you have the disorder. So you're constantly like mind fucked into like, oh my God, I thought I was awake. Oh my God, I thought I was asleep. It's excellent. Guys, good job because none of us actually went down the route of the classic expired egg when we talk about somebody who's passed away. So,
Yeah. We don't need to talk about dead people every week.
uh,
It's true.
yeah.
So
What do we got
All right.
left?
Give me your brown egg.
I have a great brown egg,
Sure you do.
and I went with what I imagine to be, and I'm probably wrong, but something that is the color brown, and something that we just and it's something that happened that's like a huge deal, kind of, but like you never heard of this before. The Great Molasses Flood. Now, I'm assuming molasses is brown when, because it looks like, pancake syrup. The Great Molasses Flood, also known as the Boston Molasses Disaster, which is hard to say. Have you guys ever heard of this before? This
I
event
promise you I
occurred.
have.
You have or have not?
Have not.
This event occurred on Wednesday, January 15th, 1919, so more than 100 years ago. I love that the write-up included the day of the week, as if that was significant for something that's 106 years ago. In Boston, a large storage tank filled with 2.3 million gallons of molasses, weighing 13,000 tons, burst, and the resulting wave of molasses rushed through the streets at an estimated 35 miles an hour, killed 21 people, and injured another 150.
My goodness.
The event entered local folklore, and residents reported for decades afterwards that the area still smelled like molasses on hot summer days. What happened was, they believe, the temperatures had risen above 40 degrees. Remember, this is January now. The temperatures had risen above 40 degrees, climbing rapidly from the frigid temperatures of the preceding days. And possibly due to mixing temperatures and thermal expansion, the tank burst open and collapsed at approximately 12:30 p.m. The density of molasses is 40% more so than water, resulting in molasses having a great deal of what is called potential energy. The energy created a wave of molasses 25 feet high, moving at 35 miles an hour. Nearby buildings were swept off their foundations and crushed. Several blocks were flooded to a depth of 2 to 3 feet. What?
It's
How,
insanity.
how are we not all talking about this all the time? A 3 foot, a 25 foot high, 35-mile-an-hour wave of molasses crushing buildings and killing people in
Where
a
was this again?
Boston.
Do we know anybody from Boston that can speak on this?
I'll call Dave McClay.
I mean,
Great
what?
grandmother of some sort?
The Great Molasses Flood. It had two names: the Great Molasses Flood and the Boston Molasses Disaster. That one sounds cooler, I think. Lesser known brown egg.
Love it. I don't, I mean, I feel like it's made up.
It sounds made up. Certainly does. Now my monitor has restored itself. Don't know how. Are we
Thank
at the end of
God.
the show?
Yeah, we're at the end of the show. Go ahead with the socials, Matt.
The socials. Well, thanks for joining us on our special WrestleMania episode. We are three eggs are better than one. Three eggs are better than one facing off in our triple threat match. Cooking up every Monday morning at 6:30 a.m. Eastern on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere else you get your podcasts. Find us on YouTube at 3eggs are better than 1. The number 3, the letter R, the number 1. Follow us on X, Blue Sky, Instagram, and TikTok at 3eggs are better. The number 3, the letter R. And also individual accounts at Yes Man Brad, at B Haremza, and I am at Purple Short Guy without the I. We're looking for those 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts. Easy to pull up and tap that 5th star. And who's got next week? That must be you, Bryant.
Yes, it is. I am next week, and I'm actually going to take an idea that was cultivated a little bit a couple weeks ago as I kind of did some deep diving of my own into something. We brought up, Matt brought up Forrest Gump and how it is a book that was adapted into a screenplay, obviously. And I did some digging, and there are many, many, many movies out there that are based on books. But I wanted to find the one where the movie was so terrible that the book just blew it out of the water. So we're going to take the opposite approach next week, and we're going to talk about some books that were clearly better than the movies that were made for them.
I like it. Be a perfect egg topic.
Yes. So before we close the show, I have to surprise my fellow eggs with something.
Uh-oh.
So there's a picture. So as Matt said, this is the WrestleMania episode. So currently being sold at the WrestleMania store as we speak right now are Frosted Yeets.
Oh.
Would you buy Frosted Yeets?
I would.
I would definitely buy
I would buy it just for the box. Yes.
I'd probably buy 2, one to eat and one to keep.
Yep.
I want to know the mark. I want to see this going ever. I mean, they had Bootios for those of you out there. The New Day came out with Bootios. I bought a box because I just wanted the box as well.
Yeah.
But when I saw this, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And
Now,
I have to show it to you guys.
They look like plain old cornflakes.
I'm sure it is. It's just cornflakes. So, but on that note, that's the WrestleMania episode of Three Eggs Are Better Than One. We thank you all for joining us. We hope you guys had some fun. Got to listen to some great interviews that, lost to time, but thankfully Brad was able to recover them for us all here today. So we're always here. We'll see you guys as always. The egg timer has been set. We'll see you next week.